Welcome to Biography with Plutarch, where we embark on a fascinating journey through the lives of extraordinary individuals, seeking to understand the intricacies of their character and the events that shaped them. Today, we delve into the life of Rainer Maria Rilke, the renowned Austrian poet and novelist, whose works have captivated readers for generations with their profound introspection and lyrical beauty. As we step into the world of Rilke's childhood, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex cultural tapestry. Born on December 4, 1875, in Prague, Bohemia, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Rilke's early life was marked by a unique blend of influences. His father, Josef Rilke, was a railway official whose practical and methodical approach to life would later contrast with his son's more artistic and intuitive nature. Rilke's mother, Sophie Enz, came from a family of merchants, whose entrepreneurial spirit and emphasis on hard work would shape her son's understanding of the importance of financial stability. The city of Prague, with its rich history, architectural grandeur, and vibrant cultural scene, provided a fertile ground for Rilke's imagination to flourish. The winding streets of the old town, lined with Gothic spires and Baroque palaces, seemed to whisper tales of the past, while the Vltava River, which flowed gently through the city, appeared to carry the whispers of the present. It was amidst this captivating landscape that Rilke's creative spirit began to stir. Rilke's childhood was not without its challenges, however. His parents' marriage was troubled, and they eventually separated when Rilke was just 8 years old. This experience of familial discord would later find its way into his poetry, as he grappled with themes of identity, belonging, and the search for a sense of home. The young Rilke was a sensitive child, often lost in his own world of imagination and fantasy, where he would create elaborate stories and characters to cope with the uncertainty of his family life. His mother, determined to foster his creative talents, encouraged him to write and to explore the world of literature. She introduced him to the works of German poets such as Heinrich Heine and Friedrich Heine, whose emphasis on the expressive power of language and the importance of exploring the human condition resonated deeply with Rilke. As he delved into their poetry, he began to see the world in a new light, where words could be used to capture the essence of the human experience. As Rilke grew older, he became increasingly drawn to the works of other German poets, such as Goethe and Novalis, whose writings seemed to speak directly to his soul. He spent hours poring over their poetry, analyzing the rhythms, the metaphors, and the emotional depth that they conveyed. His own early writing attempts were marked by a sense of experimentation and innovation, as he sought to find his unique voice and style. He wrote about the world around him, from the beauty of nature to the complexities of human relationships, always striving to capture the essence of the moment in his words. The historical context of Rilke's early years was one of significant cultural and intellectual ferment. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, with its complex mix of ethnic and linguistic groups, was undergoing a period of rapid modernization and transformation. The rise of nationalism, the emergence of new artistic movements such as symbolism and expressionism, and the growing influence of psychoanalysis all contributed to an atmosphere of creative tension and intellectual curiosity. Rilke's education reflected this dynamic cultural landscape. He attended the Piarist Gymnasium in Prague, where he excelled in languages and literature, but struggled with the more rigid disciplines of mathematics and science. His teachers recognized his talent for writing and encouraged him to develop his skills through extensive reading and writing exercises. The school's emphasis on classical education, which included the study of Latin, Greek, and philosophy, provided Rilke with a solid foundation in the humanities and helped shape his understanding of the world. As Rilke entered his teenage years, he began to feel an increasing sense of restlessness and discontent. He was drawn to the idea of becoming a writer, but was unsure of how to pursue this dream in a practical way. His family, while supportive of his creative ambitions, urged him to consider more conventional career paths, such as law or medicine. This tension between artistic aspiration and pragmatic reality would become a recurring theme throughout Rilke's life, as he navigated the challenges of establishing himself as a writer in a rapidly changing world. One anecdote that illustrates this tension is a conversation Rilke had with his father, who asked him to consider a career in engineering. Rilke, who had always been fascinated by the creative potential of language, responded by saying that he wanted to be a poet, not an engineer. His father, though well-intentioned, could not understand why his son would want to pursue such an uncertain and potentially unprofitable career path. This exchange highlights the difficulty Rilke faced in reconciling his artistic ambitions with the practical expectations of his family. The early years of Rainer Maria Rilke were marked by a rich interplay of cultural influences, family dynamics, and personal aspirations. As Rilke entered his early 20s, a period of intense creative ferment began to unfold. The publication of his first collection of poetry, Leben und Lieder, Life and Songs, in 1894 marked the beginning of his journey as a writer. This initial foray into the literary world was characterized by a romantic and introspective style, which would later give way to more experimental and innovative forms of expression. The poems in this collection were like delicate watercolors, infused with a sense of longing and wonder that seemed to emanate from the very essence of his being. During this period, Rilke became acquainted with the works of Friedrich Nietzsche, whose philosophical ideas on individualism and the will to power would have a profound impact on his own writing. He devoured Nietzsche's books, underlining passages and making notes in the margins as he struggled to come to terms with the philosopher's radical ideas. The encounter with Nietzsche's thought was like a catalyst, setting off a chain reaction of creative and intellectual explorations that would continue to unfold throughout Rilke's life. In 1896, Rilke traveled to Russia, a journey that would prove to be a turning point in his spiritual and artistic development. As he wandered through the snow-covered landscapes and bustling cities of Russia, he felt an intense sense of connection to the land and its people. He met the writer and philosopher Leo Tolstoy at his estate, Yasnaya Polyana, and was deeply moved by the older man's simplicity, kindness, and unwavering commitment to his art. The encounter with Tolstoy had a profound impact on Rilke as he began to explore the relationship between creativity and spirituality. He started to see the world as a vast, interconnected web of meaning, where every moment and every experience held the potential for transcendence. Upon his return to Germany, Rilke settled in Berlin, where he became part of a vibrant circle of artists and writers. The city was alive with creative energy, and Rilke found himself drawn into a world of salons, cafes, and studios, where ideas and inspiration flowed freely. He met the sculptor, Auguste Rodin, who would become a close friend and mentor, and the two men engaged in long conversations about art, beauty, and the human condition. Rodin's studio was like a temple, filled with half-finished sculptures and the scent of clay and plaster. Rilke would often sit for hours, watching as Rodin worked, his hands moving deftly as he coaxed life from the inert material. In 1902, Rilke traveled to Paris to work as Rodin's secretary, an experience that would profoundly shape his understanding of art and creativity. The city was a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and smells, a place where the boundaries between reality and fantasy seemed to blur. Rilke wandered the streets, taking in the sights and sounds of the bustling metropolis, from the street performers and cafes of Montmartre to the grand boulevards and museums of the Latin Quarter. He attended concerts and theater performances, marveling at the beauty and expressiveness of the human form. As he worked alongside Rodin, Rilke began to develop his unique poetic style, characterized by a focus on the individual's inner experience and the search for meaning in a rapidly changing world. His poetry from this period, such as Das Stundenbuch, the Book of Hours, published in 1905, is marked by a sense of introspection and spiritual longing. The poems are like prayers, infused with a deep sense of reverence and awe, as Rilke seeks to capture the essence of the human experience in all its complexity and beauty. One notable example of Rilke's growing literary reputation during this time is his relationship with the writer and painter, Paula Modersohn-Becker. The two artists met in 1900, and their friendship would last until her untimely death in 1907. Modersohn-Becker's innovative and expressive paintings had a significant impact on Rilke's own artistic vision, as he began to explore the possibilities of language as a means of capturing the human experience. As Rilke's writing continued to evolve, he became increasingly preoccupied with the concept of the Duino elegies, a series of poems that would become his masterpiece. Begun in 1912, these elegies represent a profound exploration of the human condition, love, and mortality. The first elegy, written during a stay at Duino Castle in Italy, is characterized by a sense of urgency and longing, as Rilke grapples with the nature of existence and the role of the artist. The poem is like a cry from the depths of his soul, a call to the unknown that echoes through the chambers of the heart. In the years leading up to World War I, Rilke's writing became more experimental and innovative, reflecting his growing fascination with the possibilities of language. He began to push the boundaries of traditional forms, experimenting with new rhythms, imagery, and syntax. His poetry from this period is like a rich tapestry, woven from threads of myth, history, and personal experience. The poems are like doors that open onto hidden worlds, inviting the reader to step into the unknown and explore the depths of the human condition. As the war clouds gathered, Rilke's sense of unease and dislocation grew. He felt like a stranger in a strange land, disconnected from the world around him and unsure of his place within it. His relationships with others began to fray, and he found himself drawn into a world of solitude and introspection. And yet, even in the midst of this turmoil, Rilke's creativity continued to flourish. He wrote some of his most beautiful and profound poems during this period, poems that seemed to capture the essence of the human experience in all its complexity and beauty. The outbreak of war in 1914 marked a turning point in Rilke's life, as he struggled to come to terms with the devastation and chaos that seemed to be engulfing the world. He felt like a ship without anchor or rudder, adrift on a sea of uncertainty and fear. And yet, even in the midst of this turmoil, Rilke's creativity continued to flourish. He wrote some of his most famous poems during this period, including the Duino elegies and the sonnets to Orpheus. These poems are like beacons of hope, shining brightly in the darkness and illuminating the path forward. As the war finally came to an end, Rilke emerged from his solitude, ready to re-engage with the world around him. He traveled to Switzerland, where he settled into a quiet routine of writing and contemplation. The Duino elegies were finally completed, and they would go on to become some of the most celebrated poems of the 20th century. Rilke's legacy as a poet and thinker was cemented, and his work would continue to inspire generations of readers and writers to come. As Rilke settled into his quiet routine in Switzerland, the majestic Alps towering above him, he continued to write with unrelenting passion, producing some of his most profound works. His later years were marked by a deepening sense of introspection and a growing preoccupation with the mysteries of existence. The silence and solitude of his surroundings seemed to amplify his inner world, allowing him to tap into the deepest recesses of his own psyche. These sonnets, penned in response to the death of a young girl, Vera Knoop, would become some of his most celebrated works, demonstrating his capacity to transform personal sorrow into universal insights. Despite his reclusive nature, Rilke's reputation as a poet and thinker continued to grow, attracting admirers from across Europe like a magnet. His unique voice, which blended elements of mysticism, philosophy, and lyricism, resonated with readers seeking deeper meaning in a world ravaged by war and social upheaval. He received numerous accolades, including the Austrian State Prize for Literature, and was hailed as one of the greatest poets of his generation. The literary establishment, from Vienna to Paris, acknowledged his genius, and his work had a profound impact on modern literature, influencing writers such as Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, and Samuel Beckett. These authors, in turn, would go on to shape the course of 20th century literature, ensuring Rilke's legacy would be felt for generations to come. Rilke's later years were also marked by a series of intense personal relationships, including a close bond with the artist Baladine Klosowska, who would become his companion until the end of his life. Their meeting in 1919 sparked a creative partnership that nourished Rilke's artistic vision and provided him with a sense of stability and comfort. Klosowska, a talented painter in her own right, brought a sense of warmth and vitality into Rilke's life, encouraging him to explore new themes and ideas in his work. Together, they formed a symbiotic relationship that transcended the boundaries of art and life, with each inspiring the other to reach new heights of creativity. As the years passed, Rilke's health began to decline, and he became increasingly reclusive. The solitude, which had once been a source of inspiration, now seemed to weigh heavily upon him. He suffered from leukemia, a disease that would eventually claim his life, and his physical condition forced him to slow down his frenetic pace of writing. Despite these challenges, Rilke continued to produce remarkable work, including the Duino Elegies, a masterpiece of modern poetry that explores the human condition with unflinching honesty. Rilke's death on December 29, 1926, at the age of 51, surrounded by Klasowska and a few close friends, marked the end of an era. The literary world mourned the loss of a genius, and tributes poured in from across Europe. Writers, artists, and intellectuals alike hailed Rilke as a master of language, a poet who had pushed the boundaries of expression to new and unprecedented heights. His funeral, held in the small Swiss town of Rouen, was attended by a handful of mourners, but his legacy would go on to inspire countless readers and writers around the world. Today, Rilke is remembered as one of the most important poets of the 20th century, a writer whose work continues to inspire and influence new generations of readers and writers. His poetry is characterized by its lyricism, depth, and spiritual intensity, offering a unique window into the human experience. Rilke's work invites us to slow down, to listen to the whispers of our own hearts, and to explore the mysteries of existence with an open and receptive mind. His story serves as a powerful reminder that art can be a source of solace, comfort, and inspiration, even in the face of adversity. That's all for today's biography with Plutarch. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that understanding the lives of remarkable individuals helps us better understand ourselves.